Hey, how you doing? Me again. Here to talk a little bit about the next step, phase 3 in peerScholar, the revise and reflect stage. Again, I create these videos for two reasons. One is to make sure you're getting what I hope you're getting out of the peerScholar experience. And directly related to that, of course, to try to help you get what you're getting out of the peerScholar experience, the way we assess you is meant to reinforce the correct behavior. So by telling you how to do this phase right, I'm also telling you how to get maximal marks for the work that you do. Um, so listen closely. Alrighty. So what's phase 3 all about? It's about something you don't really encounter much in university, and I think that's not a good thing. In university, so often you're given some assignment, it has a due date associated with it, and you really get this impression that the way things work in life is that there's a due date, you get your work done, you submit it, and that's it, you're done. Well, nothing I've done in life is ever done. Well, that's maybe a little extreme. Maybe some things are done, but it's very common in life that things keep changing. I mean, you guys have seen with peerScholar this term that we're integrating with Blackboard, and that brings up issues, and we're adding features, and we're always trying to make it better, and I'm always trying to make my course better. And just about everything I write also goes through this iterative process of producing a draft, and then either through my own inspection or through feedback from others, revising the draft, making it better, making it better, making it better. And so that's what this step is actually about, is getting you involved in that process and getting you both comfortable with it and developing your expertise at doing revisions in a thoughtful way. Of course, it's also peerScholar, so the goal is always to exercise your critical thinking, communication skills, all that kind of stuff. So, let's get down to it. What do you actually have to do? Well, when you log into peerScholar this time, you will again see some instructions, as always, that kind of guide you through the process. A little bit of a repetition of what I'm going to tell you right now. But that's okay. Read it again. Check it out again. You might even want to flip up the rubric again and refresh, remind yourself about what you've been thinking about through this whole process. But of course, when you're ready, do save and next, and then you get to the main page. What you will see now is something that looks very similar to the assess phase. That is, you will see this box with all the peer tabs across the top. But now there's a critical difference. When you click on each peer tab, what you will be seeing is what those anonymous peers said about your work. Okay, so this is now their feedback for you. And your task is to analyze that feedback, think about it in a very self-reflective way, a very critical way, and ultimately decide whether you think that peer is giving you advice that would in fact improve your work. And so for each peer, you're ultimately going to end up saying, yeah, I think there's something to that. I'm going to use that in my revision. Or you will say, no, I don't buy it. And I'm not going to use it in my revision, and I have a good reason to not use it. And I'm going to eventually ask you to give me that reason. All right. So you're going to have to analyze each piece of feedback. This is another, let me get on another little soapbox here. This is another thing I think we sometimes do wrong in higher ed institutions. You're used to getting feedback from a so-called expert, a TA or a professor who's analyzed your work and says, this is what's wrong with it. And the implication there kind of is, this is what's wrong with it. You don't have to think about it. I've told you this is the problem, you fix it. I like things that engage critical thought. And so one of the things I love about you getting feedback from your peers is that some of it is crap. Quite honestly, some of your peers do not know what they're talking about, but some do. How do you tell the difference? That's where critical thinking comes into play. So I don't want you to assume that every peer is giving you good advice. I want you to decide, peer by peer, whether the advice they're giving you is or is not useful. All right? So we have a very programmatic, very structured process for you to go through here. The way it works is as follows. Look at what the first peer said, and especially look at their constructive comment. Remember that constructive comment was supposed to do two things. It was supposed to point out some flaw, something that peer thought, if you change this, you could really improve your work. So they're supposed to point out what that thing is to change, and they're supposed to give you some direction about how you might go about changing it in an effective manner. So what I want you to do is read, peer by peer, read what the first peer says about your work. And your work is right there too on the bottom, so take a look at it and think, ask yourself the following question. If I changed my work in the way this peer suggests, would it or would it not be improved? If you think it would be improved, then you'll see a little pull down there where I'm going to ask you to rate each bit of feedback, either as not useful, useful, or very useful. So if you don't think it improves your work, then you should rate it as not useful. And I'm going to come back to it. If you think it would improve your work, then it's a question of, well, how much? You know, how great of an improvement do I think this will be? If you think, it'll improve it a little, then that would be a useful comment. If you think it'll improve it a lot, then it would be a very useful comment. So, step one, go peer by peer, read what they said, think about what they said, think about making the change, and then rate each of those as either not useful, useful, or very useful. I want to stress one point. Let's say two people tell you the same thing. So first of all, that can happen because they're each going to pick one thing, and so they might pick the same thing to tell you about. If they do, that's probably a good thing to change, right? You've got multiple people converging on that. But let's say you think about the first person that said that, and you think, yeah, that's useful. And now you get to the second person and you say, well, no, it's not useful anymore because I already know it. Well, I mean, treat it like you don't know about it, right? Was that useful or not for them to suggest it? Okay? So go through, rate those 6. Not useful, useful, very useful. Save and next. The next thing you will see is your draft. And now what we want you to do is to take that learning experience you just had and put it to work, okay? Literally revise your draft. Try to make it better in the ways that those useful peer comments suggested. So try to use that information to improve your work. Now, I want to say here that this is the part that, in my experience, a lot of students have trouble with. It's like, oh, I've produced that. I can't change it now. It's like perfect or something. You have to get good at seeing your work for what it is. And it probably is not perfect. I'm sorry to have to tell you that, but it probably is not perfect. It probably can be improved. Sometimes that improvement means throwing stuff away, which is really hard for a lot of us to grab a bunch of text and press delete after we put all the work into building it. Sometimes you do that. So take this revision step very seriously. Think about what your peers said and really try to use it to make your work better. Okay? So that's step 2. Improve your work. Revise it. And take that seriously. And then step 3, so you save and next once you've done that. Step 3 is what we call the reflection box, the reflection piece. And what I want you to do here is show the TA that the decisions you made with respect to this revision were mediated by thought. Show them that you thought about it deeply. So I want you to kind of do 2 things. One you can do kind of quick, one you can do that you should do with a little more effort. The quick one is the changes you made. So you can literally say, you know what, I got some really good comments. For example, Peer 1 said this and Peer 3 said this, and I liked those so much that I changed my work. I improved it in the following way. So talk about the changes you made, but especially talk about the changes you did not make. Okay, so if you believe Peer 4 told you to do something, but you think Peer 4 is out to lunch, defend that. Literally say, you know, Peer 4 suggested I do X, but you know, I didn't think X was a good idea for the following reason. And so I did not do X. That's perfectly cool. You do not have to do everything a peer says, but you have to think about everything a peer says, and you have to show us you thought about it. All right? So those will be your steps. Rate the usefulness of your peers' comments, revise your work, do your reflection piece. Then you'll be done. There's probably a self-assessment or something after that yeah, but that'll be self-explanatory and that'll be easy. All right, now let me talk to you about this from the TA's perspective. Of the 12 marks of peerScholar, 7 come from this phase. 4 are the quality of your final piece, right? So when you revise, try to make that as good as you can make it. Your peers are helping you to get a better mark there. So use their useful advice at least and try to make that really good. That's 4 out of 4. So the TAs will be looking at that final product and will be just saying, how good is it? And they'll give you a mark out of 4 on that. The other 3 is the sort of tricky one, but very important, and let me stress how this works. The other 3 is the appropriateness of your revision given the comments you received. So the TAs here are looking to see, they will look at your draft, they will look at the comments that you got on your draft, and I can tell you they will be thinking, okay, which comments were good, which ones are not, what would I have done with those comments? But then they will look at what you have done, and they're able to directly see the changes that you made in the document. So they'll be able to go, okay, so that's what this person did. They'll also be able to see how useful you rated the comments, how, etc. And they will look, of course, at your reflection piece. And that reflection piece will be very important because it is showing your thought process. It's allowing you to describe the way you were thinking. And what will be going through the TA's mind will be, did this person put serious thought into the comments they received? And did they appropriately revise their work in light of those comments? It's a little subjective, but they have a lot to go on here, right? And especially like I say, the reflection box is you showing them that you did your revision in a thoughtful way. So take that part very seriously. All right? So I hope that kind of lays it out. Again, I hope you will find you're thinking about all sorts of things. I want to stress one thing. What we're actually trying to exercise here, the little extra skill, is something we call receptive communication. Receptive communication, I sometimes jokingly call it the shut up and listen skill. It's your ability to, in this case, look at those comments about your work, shut up, think about what they say deeply. So every now and then an important communication skill is shutting up and listening. And that's what this phase is all about, showing us that you're doing that well. All right, cool. Good luck. I hope you enjoy it. And watch the due date. Always watch the due dates. I'll talk to you later. All right, bye-bye.